What if you took the most boring, eco-friendly car on Earth and stuffed the heart of a hypercar monster inside it? Picture this: a Toyota Prius sitting in a garage, looking exactly like every other hybrid on the road. Same bland silver paint, same aerodynamic curves designed for maximum fuel efficiency, same quiet hum that barely whispers. But pop the hood, and instead of that tiny 4-cylinder hybrid engine, you're staring at something that shouldn't exist. A quad turbocharged W16 engine from a Bugatti Chiron. 8 liters of pure automotive insanity crammed into a car designed to protect the environment. So, what happens when a 1,479 horsepower engine meets a car built for grocery runs and carpools? Can a Prius even handle that kind of power? Or does it just explode into a cloud of recycled plastic and good intentions? This isn't just about horsepower. This is about taking two completely opposite philosophies of automotive engineering and forcing them into the most ridiculous marriage in history. Let's see what we're working with. The Toyota Prius weighs about 3,100 pounds and was designed around one simple goal: maximum efficiency. Everything about this car screams, I care about the environment and my wallet. Its original hybrid system produces a measly 121 horsepower total. The entire powertrain is built around smooth, predictable power delivery that won't scare your grandmother or wake the neighbors. But then there's the Bugatti W16. This engine is automotive artwork. 16 cylinders arranged in a W configuration, 4 turbochargers force-feeding air into chambers designed for one purpose only: creating ungodly amounts of power. It weighs over 880 pounds by itself, nearly a third of the Prius's total weight. This engine doesn't whisper. It roars like a mechanical dragon that feeds on premium fuel and dreams of the Autobahn. But here's where it gets interesting. You can't just drop this monster into a Prius and call it a day. The original Prius engine sits transversely mounted, meaning sideways, in the engine bay, while the W16 is massive, designed to fit longitudinally in a car engineered from the ground up to handle its dimensions. So, we're talking about an engine bay that would need to be completely redesigned, reinforced, and probably expanded just to fit the thing. Then the transmission becomes our next nightmare. The Prius uses a continuously variable transmission designed to work with electric motors and a tiny gas engine. That delicate system would disintegrate the moment it felt even a fraction of the Bugatti's torque. We're talking about 1,180 pound-feet of torque trying to move through a transmission built for efficiency, not annihilation. You need the Bugatti's 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, which means reworking the entire drivetrain, the floor pan, and probably the laws of physics. Then comes the weight distribution catastrophe. Remember, the W16 weighs 880 pounds, and that's just the engine. Add the transmission, cooling systems, and reinforced mounts, and you're looking at over 1,200 pounds of additional weight sitting exactly where the Prius was never designed to carry it. The front end would nosedive like a submarine, turning the rear wheels into decorative suggestions. The suspension would need complete replacement with something that can actually handle the mass and the forces this engine would generate. Speaking of forces, let's talk about what happens when you hit the accelerator. The Prius chassis was designed for predictable, gentle acceleration. Now imagine 1,479 horsepower trying to move through those skinny, eco-friendly tires. The result wouldn't be acceleration. It would be automotive chaos. Those tires would light up like flares, the car would probably lift the front wheels off the ground, and the steering wheel would become a suggestion rather than a control device. But the real question isn't whether this swap is possible. With enough money, engineering, and complete disregard for sanity, almost anything is possible. The question is what happens when you actually try to drive this mechanical Frankenstein. Does it become the ultimate sleeper car, or does it become a very expensive way to turn rubber into smoke? And what about cooling? The Bugatti engine generates enough heat to warm a small building, but the Prius cooling system was designed for an engine that barely gets warm during operation. The contradictions keep piling up, but that's what makes this so exciting. The cooling system alone would need a complete overhaul. The Prius uses a modest radiator setup designed to keep a hybrid engine from overheating during city driving. The Bugatti W16 generates so much heat that it requires multiple radiators, intercoolers, and an oil cooling system that could handle the thermal output of a small furnace. You need to reroute the entire front end, possibly adding hood vents, side scoops, and maybe even relocating the radiators to the rear of the car. The quiet Prius would suddenly sound like a jet engine just trying to keep itself from melting. And here's where it gets really wild. The fuel system becomes a logistical nightmare. The Prius fuel tank holds about 11 gallons and was designed for a car that gets 50 miles per gallon. The Bugatti engine, when pushed hard, drinks fuel at a rate that would empty that tank in minutes. You'd need a racing fuel cell, upgraded fuel pumps, and lines thick enough to feed this beast. Your eco-friendly grocery getter would now require stops at gas stations more often than a 1970s muscle car. But let's say you somehow solve all these problems. You've reinforced the chassis, upgraded every system, and managed to cram this mechanical monster into the Prius body. What happens when you actually drive it? The acceleration would be absolutely mental. 0 to 60 wouldn't just be fast, it would be violent. The car would probably wheelie. The traction control would have a nervous breakdown, and every piece of plastic trim would rattle like it's trying to escape. The steering would become a wrestling match. That much power trying to move through the front wheels would create torque steer that could break your wrists. The Prius was never designed to handle forces like this, so every input would be amplified. Every road imperfection would feel like a crater, and highway driving would become an extreme sport. Then there's the braking situation. The Prius comes with basic brakes designed to stop a lightweight, slow car with regenerative braking assistance. Now you're trying to stop something with hypercar acceleration but sedan-level stopping power. You need massive brake upgrades, bigger wheels, performance tires, and probably a prayer before every drive. The original brake rotors would probably glow red and warp after one hard stop. The electronics would be in complete chaos. The Prius hybrid system relies on computer integration between the gas engine and electric motors. Suddenly, you're asking these systems to work with an engine that produces more power in idle than the original setup could handle at full throttle. Error codes would light up the dashboard like a Christmas tree, and the hybrid system would probably just give up and shut down in protest. But here's the beautiful insanity of it all. If you could somehow make this work, you'd have created the ultimate automotive contradiction. A car that looks like it belongs in a Whole Foods parking lot, but sounds like it escaped from a racetrack. Other drivers would see a boring Prius in their mirrors, then watch it disappear in a cloud of tire smoke and confusion. It would be built, assuming the greatest sleeper car ever doesn't tear itself apart in the process. The real question becomes, at what point does modification become complete reconstruction? You'd essentially be building a new car around the Prius body shell, keeping only the exterior appearance while replacing everything that actually makes it function. But that's exactly what makes this concept so compelling. It's not about practicality or sense, it's about taking two opposite extremes and forcing them together to see what kind of beautiful chaos emerges. So, could you actually build a Bugatti-powered Prius? Technically, yes, but you'd spend more money than buying 10 actual Bugattis, and the result would probably last about as long as a mayfly in a hurricane. You'd create something that shouldn't exist, breaks all the rules, and makes absolutely no sense. And honestly, that's exactly why someone needs to do it. This isn't about building a better car. It's about proving that engineering has no limits when you completely abandon logic and embrace chaos. You'd end up with the most expensive, impractical, dangerous grocery getter ever built. A car that could hit 200 miles per hour in a school zone, but couldn't make it through a Starbucks drive-thru without overheating. The Prius would become a mechanical screw-you to both environmentalists and supercar purists. Too fast for the tree huggers, too weird for the speed demons. But for 5 glorious seconds before it explodes, it would be the most magnificent automotive disaster ever unleashed on the world. And that's the real answer. Could you do it? Yes. Should you do it? I mean, if you got the money and time and dedication, why not? Will someone eventually try it anyway? I'm counting on it. Because sometimes the best ideas are the worst ideas, and the worst ideas make the best stories.